My name is Jill Bender with SafetyChain Software, and delighted to have a whole host of people on the session with us today. Again, sorry for the little mishap there and get going, but we'll get started and look forward to a very succinct session here today. As just mentioned, my name is Jill Bender. I'm delighted to have with me also Eric, who is our Director of Technical Solutions. For today's agenda, we're going to be short and succinct, make this as informative as possible for you. We'll be talking about a little bit over the challenges and barriers of food safety and quality professionals out there, regardless of where you are and where your company is within the supply chain. There's some trends and similarities certainly that everyone can relate to. What are some of the approaches for tackling those challenges? Introduction to how SafetyChain can help, and more importantly, really looking forward to an interactive session from a Q&A standpoint. So we'll welcome questions, and there is a Q&A window to put those in at any given time. Before we begin, a little bit missed there, but if there's any technical issues and or if you're having a hard time hearing, I encourage you to call into the phone number provided versus listening to computer speakers. We will be sending out a recording to you via email by the end of the week. Q&A, we'll go ahead and if a few come in, we'll answer those as they come in, or we'll take them at the end of the session. And most importantly, for your privacy, you'll only see the panelists online, but delighted, quite a few people with us today online. So thank you, everyone, for taking the time and joining us. So let's go ahead and get started. When we think about food safety and quality, there's a lot of noise out there between recalls and, focus on FSMA and GFSI and all the different outbreaks and recalls, all that. And I think what gets lost a bit, but I know every single day this is the laser focus of food safety and quality professionals, is the goal of delivering a safe quality product ultimately, right? So we have all these influences out there that are definitely not distractions, but there's certainly pressures. And I always like to start this with saying, ultimately the end goal, deliver a safe quality product. And that's what we're excited to show you how to achieve that. So let's talk a little bit about what we view as the perfect storm. When I talk with food safety and quality professionals and colleagues, again, from every facet of companies throughout the supply chain, it always the same sort of areas are always the challenges, right? How do you manage day-to-day, ensuring your customer specifications and requirements are being met, adhering to your GFSI or other standards that you might be adhering to within your company, and then a whole host of regulatory requirements, right? We have FDA, FSMA, USDA, there's even state level, regional, local levels, different requirements that you have to ensure are happening and being adhered to. Not to mention, of course, the complex supply chain, right? And that's only getting more complex, depending on the number of suppliers you have and the rules around that component, as well as supplier management. And then, of course, the inspections, inquiries, right? Those are becoming a lot more prevalent these days, and audits. So when you think about all those scenarios that every day food safety and quality professionals like yourself are dealing with, it really is a little bit of a perfect storm that you're heading into work to each day. And let's go ahead and then talk about what does that equate to from a pressure standpoint, right? We have these daily headlines, food safety repercussions. Now the Department of Justice starting to use some of the FSMA rules. Also your corner office constantly as far as meeting KPIs, reducing the cost of quality. And what do all those pressures really equate to? And again, this is what we've seen time and time again. It's a matter of being able to identify and manage issues earlier, reducing your reworks, retrievals, withdrawals, and recalls. I think externally, the public-facing people focus on the recalls, but internally we know that reworks, retrievals, and withdrawals are much more prevalent and not the ones that obviously get put out there in the news. And then the more important part within your own organization is sort of the ongoing operational review within your food safety and quality group and outline and be able to implement true improvement. Part of that is just in the quest to always optimize performance, and part of that obviously is being led with the regulatory or GFSI standards, right, as far as showing continuous improvement. But ultimately, when you think about that, really what's the pressure? It's brand protection, right? So if you think about, and we're all focused on that, one recall could certainly wreak havoc on your brand. So when you think about your job, it's complex. And, without stating the obvious here, many requirements, multiple dimensions, and depending on what type of environment you are, it could literally be 24/7, 365 days a year. Whether it's, you're working with supplier, receiving, sanitation, all the different components of your programs, and making sure the reports and the oversights and tasks and so forth are being adhered to across the spectrum there. And what happens now, obviously, with the complexities of regulatory requirements in GFSI and other standards, that complexity is just making it harder to manage on a day-to-day basis. I always like to point out that, and this is again, sort of being very obvious about it, but we all know that food safety and quality does not happen in your office, right? You're out there making sure program execution is taking place. It's everywhere. Whether, again, if your company is working in the field for produce, or if you're at the retail side at restaurants, or if you're in the manufacturing or co-plant, all the tasks that you have to do in a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month are not behind your desk. And in order to tackle your barriers and really keep up with everything, you need something that's going to keep up with you, and that's not going to be sitting in your office doing that. So what is the best way to execute a robust program in this complex, fast-moving environment that you all are a part of? Well, we'd like to take a step back and go, okay, in order to achieve really a true management of a robust program, we all know there's really true 4 steps to it, right? You have program execution, and then you need to identify and manage your issues as part of the execution. You have to manage inquiries and audits as they're, coming to you. And more important is that continuous improvement. It's this complete cycle from a program maintenance standpoint. But then if you look at that, where's the success going to be there? You want to make sure your program execution is current and accurately documented. You want to be able to truly find and manage issues at the earliest point possible. With inquiries and audits, you don't want, when an inspector comes walking in for that to bring your organization to your needs. You want to be able to have quick access to the data you need. And then more importantly, driving that data to make, tremendous and measurable improvement in areas that are defined. So what are some of the barriers we talk about within your organization? And again, this is based on our customers or prospects we talk to. A lot of this stuff is, again, a little bit probably obvious to all of you on this call. But we talk about manual processes, pen, paper, clipboards. You have static data that's often error-prone. A lot of times we hear that outdated forms. There might be a new form and it doesn't get cascaded through the system in time. The time and resources, it's that proverbial, catching the needle in the haystack and ensuring enough oversight. Records everywhere. I love some of the pictures we get sent back from some of our customer sites of where they used to store all their binders and documents and everything else. And, the fact that your data and records are everywhere. So the concept of really within an organization, data is not lacking, you're data rich, but the concept that you're information poor. So is your data working for you, or is your data working against you and you're not being able to do something with it? So what is the better way to tackle these challenges and overcome the barriers that we sort of discussed? We talk about automation, and you might hear that a lot out there. And automation, when you look at the true sense, it's the use of computers to control a particular process in order to increase reliability and efficiency. When we look at automation, when you think of automation, you might think that it's the complete task being taken and automated. What we look at is a system that's providing more operational efficiencies in order for you to do your job better. And that's what SafetyChain's operating system is all about. It's a comprehensive approach and platform to really manage the maintenance and identifying issues earlier, the documents, the inquiries, all that, whether it's supplier compliance, food safety management, food quality management, or just the compliance and audit component of it. Well, a lot of times when you think about the platform and really taking what you might be doing manual-based or forms or paper-based and what you can be achieved, we look at a system like SafetyChain where really it's about promoting efficiency and adherence, right? So it's getting away from manual paper processes and being able to be in a situation where you're capturing data and it's once done and you're able to find out right away if there's any nonconformances. It's about reducing errors and exception-based management. So again, going away from the needle and haystack scenario to really having visibility into some issues that are happening and be able to manage those right away and perform CAPAs. And it's about promoting just a holistic view of your operation to ensure audit readiness and really to facilitate continuous improvement. So when we think about SafetyChain and sort of our platform, this is where I get very excited. We talk about just the 4 key areas in which we help, and I'd like to introduce Eric, our Director of Technical Solutions, who's really going to show us today just a few quick scenarios on how our platform helps facilitate and tackle the key challenges that we see within the organization: managing program compliance, identifying and managing issues earlier, readiness, 24/7 access to data, and then continuous improvement. So Eric, with that, I'm going to go ahead and have you take it away and share a little few scenarios on SafetyChain, and we'll take it from there.
Thanks very much, Jill. Jill, I think you want to take that. Oh, do I have the ability to advance that? I think I do this every single time. There we go. I do have the ability to advance that. Thank you. Sorry, everybody. I get baffled by WebEx. But I'm Eric Hansen. I'm the Director of Technical Solutions for SafetyChain Software. Thank you very much for joining us today. I am going to walk through those 4 stages that Jill just mentioned. We're going to get into the product. But first, I'd like to emphasize that SafetyChain we're trying to transform the food safety and quality assurance industry by offering this holistic approach to improving the way you manage your programs against so many different compliance requirements and different requirements, different certifications, different customer compliance scenarios. It all starts in our system with what we call program management. That allows you to define and put context around the compliance requirement set that is being addressed, whether it's ARPC, whether it's a customer requirement, whether it's FDA, USDA, you name it, a GFSI program. You can set up that program in the platform, define the requirements, link all of your documents, all of your forms, and all of your records within that context so that you can be assured yourself that you are prepared in meeting the requirements, and you can be prepared to meet with the auditor when the auditor comes and have everything in one place. As a key part of that ongoing management, we enable smart data collection that is done via web forms and mobile forms. That makes sure that the user on the floor who's capturing the data that's going to be evaluated against the requirement is fully informed on what they're doing and meeting the requirements of the exercise. Whether it's simple notes and hints that inform the user of what they need to do, or whether it is different logical question paths where we expose different questions to users based on conditions that are met or not met. That's what smart data collection is all about. Are you collecting the right data in the right way at the right time? Next, under the hood, we have a data intelligence engine. This is where we are consuming that data, evaluating it in real time, and deciding what must be done next. This starts with that evaluation, then there's a notification, then there's an opportunity to react to non-compliances. All of this is tracked, and all of this is available to you, to your supervisors, to your users, to your auditors via a centralized record and document repository. So that's how we wrap it all up. So let's get into the product and take a look at exactly what we're talking about here. Can you see my screen? You should see a SafetyChain login screen.
Don't quite see that yet. We still see the slide.
So
let's get that there.
Let me do this thing here. And
we'll see if we get that in there.
I think you're going to get it. No, I got it here now. There, you should have it now.
Excellent.
Great. Again, sorry about that, everybody. A WebEx novice here. So we're logging in. What we're looking at now is the SafetyChain software login screen. SafetyChain is a software as a service solution. That means we are delivered entirely over the web. We will develop a specific customer scenario, specific customer instance for you with your own isolated database. Everything is very confidential and secure. You will go to your dedicated URL and log in with your username and password to access your scenario. Upon login, everything that is presented is controlled by two roles associated with that user. One controls all of the data that's presented. The other controls all of the functionality that's available. Let's begin to get into some program management type of scenarios here. So what we're looking at here is what we call the FSQA browser. I'm just going to expand this view here. In the FSQA browser, you can see details on your programs. If we're looking at our HARPC program here, for example, I can click on my HARPC program. I can see my HARPC program details. I can see all of the locations that are exercising this program, all of my locations and facilities that are exercising that program. I can see all of my HARPC-related documentation, everything that I'm required to store, manage, and maintain myself, and everything I might want to present to an auditor is all available here. Some interesting things about these documents. For example, if we're looking at a HACCP plan here, ready-to-eat vegetables and salad blends, for example, HACCP plan, this one plan, if you think back to that slide that Jill showed, where you have all of these different requirement sets you need to meet, all of these are what we refer to as programs. Well, you may have one single document, one single form that is meeting the requirements of multiple programs. We provide you with this FSQA browser a way of rationalizing that. Every document, every form can be linked to every requirement set that requires it. So for example, this particular HACCP plan is linked to my internal HARPC program. I'm the one making this garden salad. It's linked to my consumer brands program, Garden Fresh Salad, so I know everything I need to know about this here. It's linked to my main market customer who's receiving this product from me. It's even linked to my BRC clauses that dictate that I have such a document. So through this linking, we're able to leverage a single document and get it to meet multiple different requirement sets. Via the FSQA browser, this document is accessible from any of those different points. So going back to our HARPC documents, let's take another look and see, in this case, where some rubber meets the road. So if I'm looking at a document on using and calibrating thermometers, this is a document that's managed in our platform. That means I'm controlling who can see it, where and when. I am tracking the history of this document and managing the versions. Document administrators with access to this history link can access previous versions of the document. And I can see via the links everywhere this document is relevant. So this particular document outlines the standard operating procedure for using and calibrating my HACCP thermometers. If I go back to my documents, let's go see how we operationalize this particular program now with a form where we control how the thermometer calibration is actually done. So imagine I'm in a laboratory and it's time to do the thermometer calibration. I will pull up my thermometer calibration form. This was developed, this is configured, I should say. It's not even developed. This is configured using a form designer, and it meets exactly the requirements spelled out in that standard operating procedure. So I'm calibrating my thermometer. It's a thermocouple. I'm going to enter the thermometer ID, and I'm going to specify my calibration method. This is an example of a smart form. I indicate that I'm doing an ice point calibration, and it exposes to me the ice point calibration process. So now the operator is informed exactly how they need to conduct the ice point calibration, insert the thermometer probe into a cup of crushed ice, needs to be there 2 minutes, etc. We'll take the reading. If we pass, that's great. We're in the compliant range. I submit. Now I have an auditable record, user, time and date stamped that this occurred. If, however, there's an issue, the form will expand and force a correction to be initiated. So in this case, our standard operating procedure dictates that if it's a thermometer that can be recalibrated, we should do that recalibration. And if it is not, we should dispose of it. In this case, we'll keep it simple and say I disposed of the thermometer. I'll submit the record. And now we will have generated the record that this thermometer calibration was done. This record is visible if we're looking at, I'm sorry, not equipments, not items, but equipment. If I'm looking at my equipment records now, and I'm looking at my portable measurement devices, that's where I am tracking my thermometers. I can see here I have linked, this is an example of the value of linking. I have here linked the using and calibrating thermometer document. Now when I'm looking at my measurement devices, my thermometers, I have my calibration form. This is my thermometer calibration form we just completed. And most importantly, I have my thermometer calibration records all stored here in context. This is the record I just submitted. We had a failed calibration completed by E. Hansen at 8/17 this time and date. An auditable record, we can open it up and view the history. We're actually going to do that by different methods. So we leverage throughout the platform email notifications for communications of exceptions and other events. So this is the email. This is the actual email notification triggered by that check I just did. It comes through in very near real time. I can now click on that, and it'll take me right into the record itself. I can see that it was a thermocouple thermometer type, thermometer ID TC0087, ice point calibration. It read low. I need to dispose of any thermometer that cannot be recalibrated. If I'm the supervisor and I received that, I can now sign the record and say I verified proper disposal of TC0087. And we've closed the loop on that issue. The record was signed by E. Hansen. All events that stack up on these records are tracked and auditable. So this is just a very simple example, but for more complex incidents that require robust corrective actions, you can build up quite a thread here. So that's a very simple example of what we are calling, what we're beginning to call program management. The idea is I have a HARPSI program, HACCP HARPSI program, that dictates that I calibrate my thermometers. I have a standard operating procedure that tells me how that needs to be done. I can reference that standard operating procedure document when I'm looking at my portable measurement devices, when I'm going to calibrate that thermometer. I can pull up the form that walks me through exactly doing that calibration process, and then once it's done, I've generated an auditable record that maintains the status. If there was a noncompliance, has it been resolved, how, by who, and when. All of that information is captured all throughout the process. So this is what we're calling program management. Everything from the corporate level planning of how we're going to address our, how we're going to conduct our hazard analysis and risk-based preventative controls, down to the very operational detail. Who's calibrating the thermometers, how's it being done, and are any issues discovered being resolved. So let's take a look now at some other examples of smart data collection, and then we'll get into a more complex scenario where we're actually producing product. This is where I will introduce our mobile application. So if we're looking at these types of programs and smart data collection, obviously most of the activity in your plants, distribution centers, and stores is not occurring at the desk, right? Your effectiveness on the floor is quite limited when you're at the desk. So we have developed rich and robust mobile applications that we deploy on both the Android and the iOS platforms. What you're looking at here is the home screen from a 7-inch Android tablet. This is the SafetyChain mobile application down here. You would just download this from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. I'm going to open it up. And imagine now I'm conducting a pre-operational inspection pre-operational visual verification of sanitation conditions on the floor. If I'm a supervisor and I need to conduct a walkthrough on the floor prior to beginning production, I'll indicate where I am. I have a very simple form here. This is another example of smart data collection, where if the area is verified clean and sanitary, I can just check it off, submit. Now I have, again, an auditable record that this was done and that this qualified person, because we're capturing who it was and what their title is, conducted the review at this time. I will have that auditable record. If, however, there's an issue, the form will expand to capture additional information. So if there's a deficient sanitation condition, we need to know if it's a product contact area. If it is not a product contact area, that's fine. We'll resolve it on one path. If it is, then we will need to re-clean, re-inspect, and release. So I'll enter that correction, and I will indicate at this point if it's resolved or unresolved. In this example, I'll leave it unresolved, and the supervisor will have to come and confirm that this is done. And I'll indicate if it's a description of the deficiency, and I can leverage the hardware on the mobile device to actually capture a photograph, direct visual evidence of the issue on the floor. Now, I was just belittling, or just saying your effectiveness is limited at your desk, but that's exactly where I am. I'm at my desk. That's the view out my window, not the view of Conveyor 2's sanitation condition. But the idea is you can capture an image of the direct visual evidence that will become part of the auditable record of this issue. I submit the issue. That'll trigger notifications and corrections as required. So that's an introduction to the mobile application. Now, let's now go back to the web and see how we tie this all together into production. So if I'm looking now at my items, I'm going to go to my garden salad. Let's say we're going to begin to bag a garden salad. So I open up my garden salad. You can search for anything you know the name of exactly and pull it right up. I'm going to look at the details of this garden salad. And I can see, I can get quite a bit of information off of this immediately. I can see that this garden salad falls under our Garden Fresh Salads brand. We're selling it at these customers, through these customers. And I can see that it uses these raw material, red cabbage, shredded carrots, and chopped iceberg lettuce. Going further, I can go to the documents, and I can see that I've got a HACCP plan here. I'll open up the HACCP plan. This HACCP plan will dictate to me a couple of CCPs. So I can use the thumbnail, get directly to the sheet I'm looking for. This particular HACCP plan specifies two CCPs. I need to monitor the sanitation solution level of the recirculated wash water, and I need to make sure that the metal detector is working. Each of these CCPs is a good HACCP plan. Each of these CCPs specifies what the CCP is, what the hazard is, critical limits, what's being checked, how, by whom. Our forms framework on our mobile application and on our web, our smart data collection accounts for every one of these elements. So let's take a quick look now and we'll imagine we are executing this HACCP plan via our mobile device. We now have received the message that we are putting our HACCP plan into operation. We're beginning to bag that garden salad. I'm going to open up my CCP1. We're working on my garden salad. I'm at my Alpharetta facility. I'm a corporate level user, so I have to enter that. We provide notes to the operator to instruct them exactly how they're to proceed. That includes hints. And in fact, we can link the HACCP plan itself. So if the operator needs to bring this through to the mobile device and review it in detail, they can just by clicking on it. And I'm going to enter now my sanitation solution level. If I'm low, it's going to evaluate that in real time, force me to stop, trigger notifications, force me to enter correction, etc. In this case, I'll just pass it, and I'll pass the pH level and submit. That's submitted. Now I'll go to my metal detector check. Similarly, on my metal detector check, I'm working on my garden salad. I'm at my Alpharetta facility. I'm going to indicate the line I'm working on. We're going to communicate to the operator exactly how to conduct the check, how to conduct the evaluation. We'll tell them what standards to use. We're going to run a 3.5 millimeter stainless bar. If we detect it 3 consecutive times, no misses, it's a pass. Same with the 2.5 millimeter ferrous bar. And I will submit. Then now I have generated auditable records, that's 21 CFR Part 11 compliant records that my CCP checks were done in that at that time and date. The supervisor on the web can see these records come through in real time. They can be configured to receive notifications if they wish to track at that level of detail, or they can just watch the records scroll via the record browser. These are the 2 submissions I just made. They come through that fast, very near real time. So the supervisor can be assured that the HACCP checks are being done. You can tell by the blue check that they were compliant. Red X indicates non-compliant. Okay? And the records, the submissions themselves can begin to trigger further workflow. So in the second scenario, now we have our safety program in place. Our HACCP plan is underway and everything is ready for actually producing the product. So now I'm going to open up the product specification. So now we're looking at the product specification. This product specification details the blend ratio of this salad. I like this it's a nice, simple, understandable example. It's one reason why I like this. So it's going to tell us in this salad we need 70% chopped iceberg lettuce, 15% carrots, and 15% cabbage. So as these bags begin to come down the line, I'm going to grab a number of bags and verify that we're meeting that requirement. Similarly, we have cooling and holding requirements, temperature and time requirements, and we have package quality attribute requirements. Each of these becomes a form, and we empower our operators to check these on the line as we're producing our product. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Now I've grabbed some bags off the line, and I'm going to verify the blend ratio. So here we are. There's our product specification. If I need to refer to it, I can pull it through. I'm gonna pull a bag, estimate or count to derive the percentage of iceberg. And count the percentage of carrots and the percentage of cabbage. So here's an interesting thing that we're beginning to support here now. This particular specification has wide ranges. So we are not out of compliance here. We're still compliant, but we're well off target. If you're conducting this check regularly at a pretty good frequency, and we make it sufficiently quick and easy to do it at a good frequency, you're beginning to get a very valuable set of data that you can derive good business intelligence from. We're far enough off target here that if we're producing in volume, there may be some margin impact. Maybe cabbage is more expensive than carrots. Probably vice versa. I don't really know, honestly. But if you can begin to look back over time and see why in first shift are we always high on cabbage, low on carrots, or vice versa, you can begin to get some very good business intelligence that you can use to improve margins, improve operations. I'm going to submit. Now this becomes a record in the system. The final form I'll show completing here is our package quality attributes. Now I'm grabbing 5 bags off the line. I'm checking the oxygen content of the packaging, make sure we're going to maintain the freshness of our product. We're checking the package integrity, checking the pack out temperature, the package volume, and then I'm going to check the net weight of 5 of the bags and make sure we're tracking to the label weight. So this is 340, we'll say this is 341, this is 342, this is 339, and 339. Now you can see we are calculating, you can see that I got a typo there, 339. You can see we're calculating automatically the average net weight and comparing that against a different limit. So these types of quality checks can really help your people on the floor, where before they had to pull out the calculator, do the calculation, get the average net weight to make sure that we're limiting variance or meeting our label requirements as product comes down the line. Now the smart data collection forms will do that calculation for you and can even evaluate it against a specific, typically tighter limit to make sure you are where you need to be. So in this case, I did not complete all the forms. I'll just highlight that it will not allow me to submit until all forms are complete. I missed the top forms. I just wanted to show the net weight calculation there. But the idea here, hopefully in that quick kind of run through of those activities, I've conveyed an idea of program management where you can, at the top level, define your programs, whatever they happen to be, whether they're customer programs, whether they're HARP-C, GFSI, FDA, USDA. You define your programs, create your documentation, link your documentation in context, create your forms to control the action, control the data collection, verifying those programs, and then assign those forms to your operators for execution as they need to be done, and collect the records as the forms are completed. That's how we really help you get control of your programs and present those programs to your managers, to your directors, and to your auditors and your customers as they need to see that information. Finally, I showed the records in context. This is really activity-based or audit-based review of the action on your floor. But we also are capturing this data disaggregated so you can run reports and say, show me, for example, the trends on my blend ratio of my garden salad over the last month. Maybe I want to compare the first shift to the second shift. Maybe I want to see how it varies by day of the week. Get a grip on that. We pull this data out, disaggregate it from the record, and allow you to conduct that kind of analysis on it. So hopefully that was a good introduction into program management using the SafetyChain solution. Again, we start at the top level where the program is defined. Then you leverage that smart data collection to make sure that the collection of data is meeting the requirements of the program, guiding your users through that process. Then the data collection engine will do the evaluation and trigger further activity based on configured requirements. All of that collected data and all of that collected documentation is stored in a centralized record and document repository, so you're able to monitor that activity across a potentially very broadly distributed and complex networks, harmonizing all of those processes under all of those programs. Hopefully I conveyed some of that through that product demonstration. Jill, do you want to take it away on the PowerPoint?
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you so much. And again, really the goal was to just sort of show a very high-level overview of the components that can help you basically tackle the challenges and be able to get to your end goal of more effective and optimization of your operation for food safety and quality management. So just a few quick sort of wrap-up items here. Thank you for everyone. And, you know, if you want to request a more focused demo that relates to your specific scenario, depending on where you're at in the food supply chain. Again, we have customers throughout the supply chain. But a few key things we'd just like to talk about just from a differential standpoint. Within SafetyChain, it is a full support solution. We're not a tool set. We don't just turn on the system and say, go at it, have some fun with it. We have a full customer delivery support team that works with you in defining your program's processes, and because they've worked with so many customers, helping streamline the process and make sure the system is configured and set up correctly for you. Pricing, we're very proud of our pricing. You know, the idea is the more people that use the system, the better. We didn't really look too much at our supplier compliance module, but we don't price it out for individually. It's cloud-based. I know that Eric mentioned that. So again, accessibility of anywhere, anytime. What does that mean to you, right? If you're out in different locations, be able to log in at any time and be able to see or respond, even if you're at a customer site or auditing suppliers at their site, perhaps having access to that system is really important. And then just we really pride ourselves in the part that from an industry expertise standpoint, our folks that we have on our team have been in the industry, they've been in your shoes. You know, we're very proud of our customer delivery team that's worked with the customers over the years to really get them up to the next level as far as, you know, operationally managing their programs. Combined with our best, you know, the best-in-class technology. We're constantly reinvesting in our product and continuously improving our solution that we provide. So again, I'm not going to go into great detail, but one thing that I do like to strongly convey is we're not just a manufacturing product. We're not just a retail product. We're not just a produce product. The way that it's been designed, the application of it, it helps you manage your programs from food safety and quality management standpoint, regardless of where you're in the food supply chain. And our long list of customers in all areas of our supply chain attest to that. And then one thing also I just want to mention as we're wrapping up here, there was some news that we're super excited here at SafetyChain in our ongoing quest to build and improve and reinvest into our products and solutions. We recently acquired another software vendor that we thought was a very complementary fit. This is more specific to the food processing environment, a company by the name of Vigilistics. It's very focused on for those folks that are using clean-in-place processes within a manufacturing facility or looking to really focus on sort of material loss analysis and so forth, Vigilistics brings sort of a different level and extension to our solution offerings, and we'll be rolling out those offerings and extending those within the SafetyChain platform in the coming months. So very excited about that. So just a few more slides here just to sort of wrap up and get back to what we were talking about at the very beginning. Really, when you think about it, it comes down to your job every day is food safety and quality. And the more successful you are at finding any issues and managing those issues earlier on, the higher impact it is going to have to your bottom line, right? So the idea about sort of mitigating those risks early on, because the further they get down the supply chain downstream is the higher cost to the company, and you know the difference between a withdrawal or retrieval and a recall. So again, ultimately, what's the goal? Why is SafetyChain here? We're here to help you support delivering a safe, quality product. As follow-up, we absolutely will be sending out the recording. If you would like to see a more customized demo, then I absolutely encourage you to fill out the form that will pop up or give us a holler. We constantly are putting out events and educational forums just in order to better ourselves, certainly in learning and guiding the conversation, and also to provide that extension education to the market. A couple key things coming up, FSMA Fridays. If you're not part of this interactive monthly series, we've been hosting it for years. I think our numbers are around 3,000 peers that are part of that series with Dr. David Atchison once a month. We have short half-hour quick updates on what's happened the previous month in a Q&A format, which makes it very interactive. I'm very excited. We've just launched another webinar that we've started to promote with HACCP Consulting Group about FSMA preventive controls and identifying program gaps. So that is on our website, and of course, a whole host of other information on our website as well. So let me go ahead and take us out of full screen. We have a few minutes here left. If you have any questions, we'd encourage you to ask them. And I have one question that's come up, Eric, that I'll throw at you, and I think it's from a terminology standpoint, right? So we talk about what is audit on demand. I know sometimes from a technology standpoint we throw some terms out there, but let's define that a little bit more. Do you mind taking that, Eric?
Yeah, not at all. That's a great question. So there's really two aspects to that. One, we like to say that in kind of the tricky part of an audit is when that auditor comes to you and says, show me your sanitation records from March 17th, and you have to scramble back and pull that information. With the SafetyChain FS2A browser, once your programs are under management, that information is at your fingertips. You can very quickly filter by form, show me my sanitation form, very quickly filter by date range. And you can within seconds be walking through those records with your auditor. The second aspect of that is the idea that your programs wrap together all of your documentation, all of your forms, and all of your records. So all of those three elements are at your fingertips. You don't have to scramble between file cabinets and files. You can run through with the auditor, show them the documentation your organization's put them together, show them the forms that your organization is using to operationalize the plans detailed in those documents, and show them the records that result from the collection of that data via the forms. All the way through the life cycle of a record, where you can show the auditor which records have been verified by supervisors as required, etc. So that's what we mean. Hope that makes sense.
No, and I appreciate that. I think we hear a lot out there, a little bit of noise out there of just, audit readiness. And we take that, extending it, again, as Eric was saying, it's just not about audits, right? Most of those are planned. But, it's the inspections or the unannounced audits for those of you that are abiding to some of the GFSI schemes that have those, and then just inquiries. I hear constantly from our customers and prospects alike that, any given day, week, whatever the case may be, a customer might come in inquiring about something or to that point. So again, having your data being accessible and easily attainable, and that's the on-demand part component of it. Another question that came in was just in regards to supplier compliance. Again, we didn't focus on that today. There's quite a bit of information, but Eric, if I could throw this to you. We did talk just real briefly, I think I might have mentioned partner portals. Could you just at a high level explain what that means?
Yeah, absolutely. We do have a supplier compliance module, a whole suite of functionality designed for supplier compliance, and we didn't get into it today. But that is where you can define your different populations of suppliers. For each population, you can define the requirements they're subject to. Those requirements will be communicated to the suppliers as tasks that appear in a supplier-dedicated portal. So each supplier will get their own portal they can interact with, and they'll step through those tasks. Those tasks really comprise of the things you need to collect from those vendors. They're uploading to you their certificates of insurance, their GFSI certification. They're completing questionnaires. We leverage our form framework that you saw to create very rich questionnaires that are pushed out to the suppliers via the portal that they can complete. And we're pushing out to them also documents for acknowledgement and e-signature capture. Kind of a classic example of that is if you're pushing to a vendor a specification or a revision to a specification, you want them to sign that they're going to meet those new requirements. All three of those are supported and commonly used with our portal. We'll track then the supplier's progress in meeting those requirements and leverage the FS2A browser as you saw, so that for every supplier you can see all the documents you've received from them and the status of all those documents, all of the forms that apply. Those can be questionnaires or audits or other checks, and all of the records. This then kind of becomes a very dynamic repository of supplier performance and compliance information. But I think that we could spend a whole other session on that and be happy to.
Oh, we certainly could. A half a day, right? Yeah. If it's also you have the different components, but again, user friendly, and it provides the program management component of it. I think one more question I'll take here. Thank you for these questions, everyone. I really appreciate it. This is in reference to visibility into the system, it looks like, and I'll sort of encapsulate what the question looks like it's asking, just in regards to what we call role-based. How many people can access, what are they seeing within the system, is the data private? I think that's sort of the general gist of the question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the data is private to the customer, and for every customer we can define different populations of users. Often typically these will be segregated also by locations to control the data that is presented to any given user. There's a great deal of flexibility around that. And you can control the data that is visible to any given user, and then you can control what they can do to it. Are they only viewing the data, or do they have the ability to update or distribute that content? All of that is controllable via our role-based framework.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And I think sort of an add-on with that is just in regards to, from a visibility standpoint, should the auditor and inspector, again, sort of what you're showing to them is up to you, right, Eric?
That's exactly right, yes.
Right, and having that visibility, really do you want to. So it looks like that is probably the last question that's come in for today. Again, thank you, everyone, for sticking with us. I think we promoted this as a 45-minute, but based on everyone that's still with us, I do appreciate it. And hopefully this gives you just a little bit of idea of what SafetyChain is about. We're very proud of our continuous commitment in helping you and helping the industry as a whole produce, a higher level and help make your lives a little bit easier in your ultimate goal of safe, quality product for your company. So again, thank you, and thank you, Eric, as always, for jumping on with us today and everything that you've provided. And again, if you have any questions, follow-up, anything that we didn't address today, please don't hesitate to ask. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, everybody.